Now, you have the ability in Lizzy to create non-inventory parts to track pretty much anything you want to track. And in this video, we're covering specifically how to create specialized labor part numbers that we're going to put on a service ticket to track the fact that we did something and we want it to hit a special GL account for that particular labor entry. So when we run a P&L, it literally breaks out each individual labor entry for whatever it happens to be. Now, in the big scheme of things, Lizzy works really, really well on the accounting side, managing massive amounts of inventory and keeping everything as simple as it can. But when you're creating parts that are one part and you want one set of accounts for that one part, it's a little bit cumbersome because you have to create a vendor to represent that part, and then you create the accounts for that particular vendor. So you're not actually putting accounts on the parts, you're putting it on the vendor that it's going to link to. So if you want to create 5 different labor accounts, for example, you need to create 5 different labor contacts or labor vendors so that you can link each individual check to them, because the accounting information is actually stored on the vendor record. So I'm going to go through how to actually do this for one part, and then you can kind of do the rest of them from there. So we're just going to go to contacts. I'm just going to locate a contact to save time here. I'm not going to actually create, or I'll tell you what, we'll create a new vendor. We'll just go in here and we'll create, and we'll get rid of the last name. We'll create a vendor called Labor One. And so I'm going to basically go ahead and save it. That's all we really need. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it that this is a manufacturer. We'll uncheck the customer box. We'll save that. And then I'm going to choose the manufacturer link, and I'm going to come down here and we're going to create a new account. So we're going to either go to the chart of accounts and create a new account over there, or we can hit the wizard hat and let Lizzy create a new account here. It probably is better to create it manually over in the chart of accounts, because we don't need cost of goods and inventory accounts for this. It's not something that we're going to stock. So really we only need a sales account for this particular item to keep track of it. So I'd go create the account manually and then come over here and just link it to whatever it is that you want it to go to. So that's step one. We have the vendor set up, and we have the account set up that we want to use for Labor One. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to inventory, and we're going to add a new item, and we're going to choose Labor One for our vendor. So we're going to come down here to the L's. We have quite a few vendors in the demo. So there's Labor One. And just by me picking that, it now knows what account to use for this item when we sell it. So for the part number, I'm going to put in specialized, or actually we'll just call this Labor One. And then for the description, we'll put in special labor for X type jobs, whatever. And then for the price, is the only thing I really care about, is that we charge $75 an hour for that particular item. Now, a very, very important part is down here at the bottom. This is not going to be something that is warranty, and it's also not going to be inventory. We're not going to actually track inventory for this item. So we're not going to be putting in a current quantity or ever adjusting inventory or anything like that. We're just selling this purely as an item on the invoice. So now we're going to go ahead and save the item. And now I'm just going to come over here to invoice, and we'll create, I'll tell you what, we'll do since this is labor, we'll create a new service ticket, use the current contact, we'll add a job and put this in. But we're not, in this situation, we are not going to be adding, if I edit this job again, I'm not going to be adding labor in here, because this is going to go to the default service labor account, and it won't hit the chart of accounts the way that I'm wanting it to. So I'm going to leave that blank, and then on this job, I'm actually going to add Labor One as a part that I put on the job, and then I'm going to put how many hours it was here. So when I'm looking at the actual job, the labor is actually on here as a part. Now, obviously, the system isn't tracking inventory on it because we unchecked the inventory box, But when we cash this invoice out, it will use whatever account we told it to when we created the vendor record. So you have the ability to create as many of these things as you want. You can add them to, I mean, you can even add these to part sale invoices if you want to when you're doing it this way. There are some benefits to doing it, but it takes just a tiny bit more work because you do have to create a specialized vendor record for each one of them to be able to link it to the proper accounts.